Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining me. Today I am super excited to be part of a blog hop that C&CT is having, and they're celebrating a brand new release. The brand new release is called And Back Again. Now it's kind of a funny name, And Back Again, but it's meant to connect with last month's release, which was To the Moon. So we are celebrating To the Moon and Back Again all in one blog hop, and I hope you can join us. The blog hop, there is a giveaway and there's tons of inspiration. Today I want to create 3 cards for the blog hop, and I'll leave my blog down below if you guys want to head on over and check it out. But let's jump in and create some cards. The product that I'm going to be using are from both the To the Moon and Back Again release, and we're going to be using these items. So many fun items, oh my goodness. But I wanted to share this stamp set with you. This is called the Friends Greetings. We'll be using that. And this is the Stylized Heart. It's really pretty. It creates some beautiful detail in that heart. And then the neat thing is there is a Stylized Heart stencil that you can stencil in those areas because it lines up beautifully. We'll be using this. Now, I've been creating a lot of birthday cards lately, and I'm super excited that Simon has 2 brand new sets that are perfect for birthdays. This is the Fancy Cake set. Let me open it up and share with you what it looks like, because it's pretty neat. And when I first felt the envelope, I thought, wow, this is a heavy die. But guess what? It comes separated. No pokey things that are going to make your fingers bleed. But it has a magnet. So that is super neat. We will be using this on one of our cards today. And of course, you know I love my sweets. So this is going to be super fun. There's also a new birthday die. This is the birthday wafer thin die. And it has the birthday and it has the outline. And they line up beautifully together. You can see here. And it fits nice on a portrait or landscape style card. And it's the perfect size as this. So we're going to be using that with the birthday cake today. And then there's also a really beautiful stamp set that's great for so many sized cards because of the size of the image. So this will be great for a partial image on a A2, a 5x7, slimline, mini slimline. And then the sentiments in here are so pretty. There's a little bit of everything. Hope you feel better, missing you, happy birthday. You are so beautiful and thanks for your friendship. So we'll be using this on one of our cards also. So lots to do, and there's more to this release. This is just a little bit. But we're going to jump in and get started with our first project. We're going to create a friendship card using the Stylized die and then the Stylized stencil. Both of these line up beautifully together. I'm just going to take this out of the package. And we're going to use white cardstock, and I'm going to die cut out the heart twice with white cardstock. So we have 2 in total. I'm just going to punch out all these little pieces, and it punches out beautifully. It's a very you would think it's very delicate, but those pieces punched out really easy. Now after we have our hearts die cut, we're going to take the stencil, and I'm taking some lighter weight cardstock. This is Nina Classic Crest 80 pound, and I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending with the stencil. I put my heart in the corner. That's why my paper's at a diagonal, so I could use that same paper for another heart on the other side. But I'm using my Distress Oxide inks with the stencil. I'm using 2 different shades. The lightest shade was Dried Marigold, and then I want to do a little bit of darker shading just on the right side of this heart with a darker orange. This is Ripe Persimmon. Just kind of creating a little bit of depth with the coloring. I love doing this, and the result is super pretty. Just 2 colors, it just amazes me how pretty that is. And you can see that your stencil will line up beautifully. I'm going to flip my paper around, clean off my stencil, and we are going to repeat the process, but this time using some teal colors. For my lightest ink, we're going to use Salvaged Patina, and I'm just using my blending brushes and doing the same thing, lightly going over that heart. We'll pick up some ink here, and color in the heart basically. And then we're going to add a little bit of shading with a darker teal color. The darker teal is peacock feathers. But this time, instead of going on the right side of the heart, we're going to go add a little bit darker shading on the left. We're going to overlap these two, and I wanted that dimension to show, and I didn't want to cover it up when I overlapped both of these hearts. But I love the colors, and I love the way this turns out. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of extra dimension by adhering my hearts directly over my stencil. Now you can use glue if you want. You can use your sticker maker. I'm going to use the Simon tape runner, dot runner. I think this is a nice dot runner. Dot runners are great for intricate areas because the dots just adhere to the paper. It doesn't go in between those areas where some tape runners do. And I love that Simon's dot runner has color to it, so you know exactly where you're putting that tape. But once it's taped up, we're going to put it directly over our heart. I already did the other one. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just fussy cut around the edge of each of the hearts. And I'm kind of going underneath the edge of the die cut piece, so it's nice and even. So we have some pretty hearts all die cut out. Actually cut out. Now for my background, we're going to keep this card pretty simple. I'm using a background stamp that's not part of the new release, but it is called Friendship Text Background. I love background stamps like this to create a little bit of interest on my cards. And so I'm just inking it up with Memento ink, and I'm going to place my card base directly on it, put some scratch paper over the top, and then just press down really good. And then we have a background filled with friendship text. And there is one area that didn't stamp too well, but I'm not too concerned about it because my hearts are pretty big and I think we can cover that up. I'm taking my panel, which was an A2 panel, and I'm going to trim it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. We're going to take our tape runner and go ahead and adhere this to our card base. And then we are going to stamp our sentiment. Our sentiment, we're going to stamp on some vellum. I'm just going to place this down here. I'm not going to press down too well right now because I'm probably going to need to lift it up to tuck that vellum underneath. But we are going to stamp the vellum with Versamark ink, and this is just a 1-inch strip of vellum. So I'm going to treat my paper with my anti-static powder tool and then stamp the sentiment from the Friends Greetings stamp set that says "Hello Friend." I'm stamping with Versamark ink, and normally I would use my VersaFine ink and then cover it with clear, but I want a real intense black, so I'm using the C&CT stamp black, fine detail black embossing powder. I wanted to go over it with black embossing powder, which is a little tricky, but it did heat emboss very well. But I wanted it to be really nice and black because we have that pattern background, and I wanted it to shine through basically. Now we're going to go ahead and take our vellum piece, and I'm going to put my sentiment a little bit towards the left, wrap these tabs around my background, and then we'll just, since there's adhesive already behind there, we're going to go ahead and just tack it down to our card base. So that's nice that the Simon dot runner is a little bit forgiving. You could pick it up. Now we're going to go ahead and take our hearts. I'm going to add adhesive to one side of the orange one, and then we're going to layer them together, kind of a little bit wonky. And then we can place these. I know I want one of the oranger hearts on the vellum, so we're going to just flip them around and add adhesive, foam adhesive behind it for a little bit of extra dimension, and place this just above our sentiment on the vellum too. Now next, for bells and whistles, I'm not going to do much. I'm just going to add a few, some clear gems, and we're just going to add them here and there, above and below the sentiments. I just bought that little gem case, and it's pretty neat. It has a lot of neutral colors. I'll list it below, but we're just going to add a few, and then that is our first project. Pretty simple card, but I just love the way it turned out. I love the colors with the black and white background. Now for my next card, we're going to make a birthday card, so we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. We are going to take our birthday cake, our fancy cake set, and I don't know about you guys, I don't show it on camera, but the little pokies from our dies, when we separate them, I've nipped myself so many times. So I like that the dies are separated. I'm going to use some colored cardstock. I have a pale peach. I'm going to die cut out the layers of the cake with that, and then the base layer I'm going to die cut out with the darker orange cardstock. I have a pale gray. We're going to die cut out the cake plate and the pedestal with the pale gray, and then the candles we're going to die cut out with white cardstock. I'm going to do a little coloring with my Copic markers for those. For my sentiment, we're going to die cut this out also. I'm going to die cut out the outline or the shadow with black cardstock, and then our birthday with the white. I'm going to run everything through the die cut machine, and I did a couple extra things. I die cut out some stars, and then also some, like a little frosting piece. This little frosting piece is from Sunny Studio, I believe, but I think it's going to go perfect with the cake. So now we're going to go ahead and add some glue behind our birthday and just layer this on our black birthday shadow, and then I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind it so it's ready to go. I didn't put any foam adhesive behind the bee because that's going to go overlap on our cake. Now to build the cake, it's pretty easy. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive, and then we'll add our first layer. It just lines up beautifully from the bottom up, kind of creates a little curve and dimension with your cake. Before we add the top layer, I want to go ahead and finish my candles, and we're going to use two different shades of teal markers, and I'm adding the lightest first, and then I'll just take a darker teal and create some diagonal stripes. We're going to create some fancy candles, and I'm just going to create the same candles for all 4 of these. But again, you can create a cake full of candles. That's the nice thing is there's 4 candles that die cut out at once. So if you want to die cut out a couple times, you have a whole lot of candles for your cards. For the wicks or the flames, I just used an orange and a yellow, blended those 2 together. Now what we're going to do is add adhesive. I need to add one more little adhesive on the left here, but you just pick up your candles and put them on the very top of your cake. I'm making sure that the bottom of the candles are going to go under the curve line of the layer that we're going to put on top. And then we're going to add adhesive behind this top layer and sandwich it between the candles. This is going to help secure it together, and I love the way this turned out. To create the cake pedestal, it's very easy. You just add a little adhesive behind your cake plate, and then you have a large scallop in the center. That's your guide on where to put it. And then you just take your cake and layer it on your cake plate, and you have a fun, fancy cake. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, add foam adhesive behind it, and then our cake is good to go. I'm going to bring in some pattern paper from the 6x6 paper pad from Echo Park, and I'm also going to bring in some black and white stripe paper for my background for my card today. We're going to do lots of layers for this birthday card. So I went ahead and trimmed down my background pattern paper. My birthday needed happy, so I'm using some reverse sentiment strips from Simon, and I believe this is the Happy Everything maybe set, but I just trimmed out a happy from that set, and it worked out perfectly. This is the pattern paper I was talking about from the pool party. I trimmed it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. We're going to layer this first on our card base, and this is going to be a landscape style card, so I'm just making sure it's centered. Then I have a 1/2 inch strip of teal cardstock. It's the same teal that I used to die cut out my largest star in that little tin above there. I'm going to put that right in the middle of that diagonal stripe paper. And then we're going to go ahead and add a little adhesive behind our little frosting swirls and layer that on that teal cardstock. So we have some icing. I was going to decorate the cake, and I thought, well, this might be a little bit more, there's going to be a lot going on, so let's add some swirls to our paper. Let's add this to the bottom of our card base, trim off the excess, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove the release paper off of our cake, and then we'll add this. We're going to add our cake a little bit more towards the left. This way we can overlap our birthday slightly over the bottom portion of our cake, and it's not going to overhang. I think that looks so fun. I'm going to remove the release paper off of those foam squares, add a little bit of tape where the bee is, and then we can just turn around and adhere our birthday. And I went ahead and added foam adhesive behind my happy. We'll just remove that release paper, and I'm going to tuck the happy underneath that top layer of our cake, just above our birthday sentiment. And then we're going to add our stars. I am going to pop up each one of these stars with a small foam square. Add our last one here on our cake. And then for bells and whistles, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some Studio Katia iridescent stars. These are really pretty, and these the largest stars in this pack fit perfectly on the small stars that I popped up. So that's where we're going to put them, right in the center of those small stars. And then, so we have a little bit of sparkle here. If you wanted to, too, you could use diamond stickles and go over the flames of your candles. I think that would be an added detail touch, but that finishes off my second project. Now my third card I think would be great for any occasion, guys. Sympathy, get well, happy birthday, that's what we're going to make today, but I think the style will be perfect for any occasion. I'm going to go ahead and treat my paper with my anti-static powder tool. My paper actually measures 5.5 inches long by 3 3/4 inches wide. I went ahead and placed my large floral stamp from this is the Beautiful stamp set, and it is called the Beautiful Bouquet, and it is beautiful. I offset it so it's on the top right corner here. I'm kind of sideways, but I'm stamping partially on that panel, and I did stamp the sentiment at the same time. I'm going to go over it with clear embossing powder. I stamped with Versamark ink, which is a sticky ink, so I can go ahead and go over it with clear. Now after that's melted and heat set, I want to go ahead and take that same floral and a larger piece of cardstock, and I want to make sure that my two florals in this that are showing on my happy birthday panel are showing on my larger white panel here. We're going to do a little fussy cutting with it, and so I want to make sure I have both of those flowers. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add some clear embossing powder over it, and then we're going to melt this as well. Now when I fussy cut my flowers out, I'm going to leave a little bit of those petals around those flowers intact and go one petal lower. You can see here it's not the full flower. I wasn't too concerned about it being a full flower, and it really doesn't matter, you know, where you start, where you stop, but as long as you have the flower base. After they're fussy cut, I took my memento marker, you can see, and I went around the edges, and then we're going to use the blending brushes that we used for our stylized heart card, and I'm just adding color to my flowers. The largest one I used the blue here, and then the smaller one here we're going to use the orange tones. Since we have a little bit of ink on my brushes, I thought we'd add a little color just below our sentiment to kind of highlight it. I love the way this turned out because it kind of balances the color on my panel. And I'm just ink blending the orange and the blue together. Careful not to overlap, because when you overlap blue and orange, it doesn't give you a real pretty color. Now our panels are done. Let's create a card. I have some striped paper from a paper pad from MFT, and it is about 3/4 inch strip of just the horizontal stripes. We're going to adhere this to the right side of our card base, which is a standard A2 size card base, and then we'll trim off the excess, and I'll take my panel, we're going to flip this around, and then I'm going to go ahead and add this, no dimension, just directly to my card base. And you can see I already added foam square or foam tape behind those flowers. That's where we're going to get our dimension from. I'm just going to remove the release paper off of our largest flower, and we're going to twist it to where it almost coordinates with our black and white flower. But I do want to kind of offset it a little bit. You don't want it perfect, because then it'll show the imperfections of your cut lines. So offset it just a little bit and make sure it overhangs on that black and white stripe. I think the contrast there is wonderful when it overhangs. I'll do the same thing, but this one I'm going to do a little tucking underneath that blue flower. And I love the way this turned out. It's pretty easy, but I think it, again, make any card would be really pretty doing this with. I'm going to finish it off with some moonshine sequins from Simon. Added a few here and there, just clear sequins, just to add a little bit of subtle sparkle, and that finishes off my third project. We're going to take a look at all the cards that I made today for the blog hop. I hope you can join us for the blog hop. It's a 2-day long blog hop, and today is actually day 2. I'm going to use my towel and go over my flowers. When I put oxide ink over it, it kind of dulled down that black embossed area. So just buff it away with the towel and it makes it nice and shiny again. But I hope you can join us for the blog hop. I'll leave my blog link down below if you want to head on over there. But if you want to start at the beginning, head on over to Simon. And have a great day. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this project. We will see you again real soon, guys. Bye-bye.